Hello everyone, this is Joanna. Thank you so much for coming back. These are going to be your messages for the month of August. I am doing them very differently than I have done them up until this point, so they will resemble more of the mid-July reading, where most of my information will be channeled. I'm not using any traditional tarot cards. I'm using only one card from John Holland's deck and one card for food for thought from Colette Reed's. Everything else is this deck here, which I didn't study, so I just look at pictures and then I hear what I'm to say. Of course, for more long-term projections, there are a lot of videos that I published not that long ago. That information is down below. So there is a 6-month video for each sign on Vimeo from July until the end of the year, and of course there is the Uranus 7-year projection, which has a much longer projection to show you what to expect over the next 7 years. So that information is down below. Of course, these are general readings, so they will not apply to everybody. Listen to your other signs. These may offer you greater picture, and more than anything, thank you so much for liking, for sharing, for subscribing, for private sessions. That information is down below. Thank you so much once again. Please do comment. I love hearing your comments. And without further ado, let's start off with the readings. Hello beautiful Pisces, these are going to be your messages for the month of August in 2018. Let me tune in first to some channeled messages. Before I start with this, when I connected with your energy right away, I saw the symbol of a seashell. So I actually looked it up, but then I was asked not to and have you do your own research. So for some of you, you have a connection, some kind of a spiritual connection to a shell or a seashell. For some of you, this reminds you of somebody. And for some of you, this is a metaphor or a symbolic meaning of some sort that you may want to look into. So for those of you who are interested in having more information on this, what this may mean for you, research the symbolic meaning of a seashell and see if it makes sense to you as well. The other feeling I'm getting is that part of the same message and the pearl. Pearl, in order to be created, has to undergo some difficult conditions within the shell. And I believe, from what I know, I may not know a lot about this though, the pearl is created as a grain of sand gets into the shell, and the constant friction against the shell wall creates a beautiful pearl, which is a gem. So the symbolism here is that you too are like that pearl, and chances are you have been, in order to be that pearl, you have been undergoing some difficult transitions in order to help you be shaped and ultimately born. So this is born into more satisfying life. Let me just get back. So what this is symbolizing for many of you is the process of birth or creation of something brand new in your life, a brand new opportunity and a brand new individuality, a brand new way of living, being, seeing. There's something precious that's being born, but indication is it has been through difficult circumstances. For many of you, this is regarding the idea of feeling stuck for the purpose of feeling safe. And this is emotional safety. So this will pertain to those of you who have chosen to be in a commitment, particularly long-term commitment, that although fate felt financially safe and maybe, you know, stable in some way, was fundamentally unfulfilling to you. And that when faced with for prolonged periods of time, create an inner conflict which eventually comes up to the surface as a difficult circumstance. Now, the other thing is being shown that in the month of August, you will be unhooking or unstucking yourself. Again, situations wherever you have been stuck, whether it be family, friendships, whether it be job situations, any kind of commitments you are tied to, Any of those that are currently creating friction and have been creating friction for quite some time, there will be a choice made very soon in order to let that go. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean letting go physically of things, for example, jobs, but it may signify that there at least will be some sort of a recognition that it is time to move on, rather than living in denial for the purpose of not rocking the boat. Because when the boat is rocked, let's face it, it gets a little bit challenging. And when fundamentally we seek safety and purpose in others, the aspect of us that needs it will have difficult time of letting go. So a lot of this is about you exposing your vulnerabilities to the surface, or being exposed, your vulnerabilities being exposed, in order to help you shift some perceptions about you that relate to the past. So let me just go into the channeled message, if that wasn't it. Some of you have put people on pedestal, and you have, so putting on pedestal, and you will choose to no longer do that, or you will be deciding that it no longer works for you. You're more evolved than that. So you will not be putting people on a pedestal. Consequently, people who you already have on a pedestal, you will choose for them to be no longer. This means that there will be a shift in relationships in your life. The shift obviously produces certain consequences. So whether the shift means that your circumstance will have to kind of shift to follow you, or you decide you no longer want them, I don't know. I guess I'm talking about letting things go. Whether you, as a result of this shift in status quo, no, not in status, in your status or in your belief, what am I trying to say? I totally lost the train of thought. Get back. So as a result of this shift in your view, you choose to leave a relationship, or you choose to work on a relationship or work situation, that will be determined by you. Again, the month of October is coming up. So that's one circumstance. Sorry about that. Sometimes I just kind of, my thought just stops. The other part of the message is that you will be taking power from giving it to others to putting it on yourself. In other words, you will either be in an authority position, or you will feel in an authority position in the month of August, or you will begin to feel important and not less than somebody else. So this is obviously a very relationship-based situation. Some of you are, and this is regarding work, if you have been in a status quo and you are not receiving the promotion or the pay raise, whatever it is, if there is no movement up for you, you will be choosing to go elsewhere. So that will be at least an understanding or an awareness, or awareness, I want to say awareness, but an awareness that that's in fact what needs to happen in order to be happy. So that's going to be for some of you, which means you're going to let go of old relationships pertaining with work. Some of you are choosing to move forward on your own, whether that is a partnership, love relationship, or work situation. Could also mean that you are going to be thinking of starting your own business. So as a side effect of a separation of some sort, you will be choosing to make it on your own. And this can be, again, either in a relationship or in a work situation where you're choosing to kind of move your own way. I feel for many of you, again, October is coming up, over the next several months, August, September, over the next 2 months or so, you're going to feel like you are getting back on track. And some of you have been feeling off track for quite some time. For some of you, it's as far as 5 years, and or more recently, but it's going to feel like you're fusing back together and your life is getting back on track. So lots of changes, looks like. Is there anything else? The most important thing is, if you have been feeling hooked on something or stuck, this can also denote something that we are addicted to. It is important for you to analyze the reason why, the deep reasons why, and decide if this is the choice you're willing to stick with, or it's time to move on. Now, moving on to what the theme is for the month of August. 2 cards popped up. You have Ace of Cups in reverse, and Ace of Wands in reverse. Don't let this scare you. All this is saying here is that you're going through emotional purging. So whatever you have been attached to before that didn't serve you, you are choosing to let that go. For some of you, it means endings of certain relationships. For some of you, it is ending of being emotionally stuck, which may result in you feeling not very good about yourself and life in general. Some of you are going to experience a greater sense of awareness when it comes to your career. So you may notice that your career choices and decisions are beginning to change, and you may actually want to part in at some point with the current company that you're with, or with the current job that you're with. But for many of you, this is letting go of the past, particularly when it comes to career and love. That's what I'm going to say. Now, we also have love towards friends. We have love towards animals. But this isn't. This doesn't feel like a loss that is instigated for you. It feels like a loss that is instigated by you. So I'm going to stop saying loss. I'm just going to say letting go. And because many of you are at the end of a cycle, and you have been in transitions, which is again what the pearl symbolism indicates. Now, some of you are refusing or have refused to let go of old relationships. And these could be relationships that are no longer in existence in the physical life, or these are relationships that have their roots somewhere in your past. And you're still choosing to hang around them for whatever reason, but it's making you feel stuck. And for many of you, this is going to be past anger, past resentment, past hurt, past pain that has kept you stuck in other relationships or in your current relationships. So that's for some of you. Also, many of you have been carrying a heavy load. And what do I mean by this? A burden on your shoulders, heavy load as far as an emotional burdens, because you have learned to believe this is your duty. So there's a sense of what's the word I want to use, please? Not independence, a sense of obligation. Is that what I want to say? A sense of obligation. It's almost like you have a sense of obligation to help others over and above needing to be helpful to yourself. So this is clearly connecting to an unbalanced way of relating in a relationship. And it's also an unbalanced way of relating within yourself, when some part of you feels like it needs to be responsible for the world, yet another part of you is feeling neglected as a result. So many of you are choosing to let that go. And you're also choosing to extract a lot of wisdom, as in lessons from it. So you'll look into your past, you'll recognize certain goals that you had in mind, and you'll notice how these goals are not coming into fruition because of that attachment that you have in your past. So many of you will understand what I mean by this. Now, what are you leaving behind, or what do you need to leave behind? You have the card called Common Ground. So what I hear when I get this message, those of you who you used to have common ground with, and now you are no longer, you're going to leave that in the past. For some of you, this is a marital situation. For some of you, this is your obligation to somebody else's happiness over your own. Being on a common ground with someone in order to create the same goal is obviously very important. And many of you have either have lost faith in yourself pertaining to this situation, or you have lost faith in another to help you achieve the goal you're after. And as a result, you're choosing to let that go. It seems like there's a lot of letting go, isn't there? But that is everybody, every single sign. And I feel like I've talked about this with you guys last couple of months, so that doesn't surprise me. However, it's exciting where this is going. So basically, anything that is no longer resonating on the same level as you, as much as you can help it, you are going to leave that in the past, or you are urged to leave that in the past. And that can go for anything in your life. You know what resonates with you, and you know what doesn't resonate with you any longer. And if something doesn't resonate with you any longer, it's time to let that go. Now, what are we going to deal with once we let that go? You have long-term card, and you have refining galactic lineage. So I'll tell you what I get when I hear this. August is a time of nurturing long-term goals. It is about not only planting seeds for the new, but also taking care of the growth process, which signifies to me the process of cultivation. What do I mean by this? If you are currently in a situation that no longer serves you and you're choosing to let that go, understanding what you have learned from it as wisdom will help you understand how to deal with things going forward, and it will certainly change your idea of your long-term goals. So as we end certain things, we almost always plant seeds for something new. And this is a time to plant seeds for the long-term growth, initiating it with your awareness that you currently have that was based on the things that you are letting go. Now, let me say this more in English form. With your new understanding of life based on what you are choosing to let go of now, you will create a brand new awareness which will help you cultivate the seeds you are planting, ensuring a greater positive growth for yourself down the road. This will require you to have patience with yourself, and this will require you to be smart choices and make smart decisions, because these choices and these decisions will more likely than not affect your long-term goals, or will show themselves in your future as a long-term goal. So to give you an example, if you pay too much attention to your past and what has happened and why you don't have something like this, or why did somebody do this, or why did I have to go through it, if you continually keep focusing your energy in the past, your long-term goal will be based on that focus. If your focus now is about letting go what no longer serves you, learning from it, gaining wisdom, extracting valuable information about yourself, if you apply that wisdom to your seeds right now, your long-term goals will affect your brand new awareness. So you know where I'm going with this. It's purely based on law of attraction, but it's important that you pay attention to these things, particularly in the month of August, because I'm being shown here that the next several months, particularly 6 to 8 months, it's like the soil is being fortified, so the growth is going to happen very quickly and very strongly. So be very mindful what you put your attention to. If you need to learn how to meditate to calm your mind in order to focus your mind in a certain direction, do that. If you need to undertake some activity that helps you slow your breathing, focus on your breathing like yoga, do that. Whatever, chanting, whatever it is, in order to help you focus your mind, which is where you focus your energy. Because when your mind or where your thoughts goes, that's where the energy follows. And I always say, the energy doesn't care where you focus it. It's going to go where you focus it. So be mindful of where your energy goes. For some of you, this is going to sound rather maybe strange or crazy, but through going through this experience, you are actually learning important aspects about yourself as a human, because Spiritually speaking, you need this understanding in order to help you focus on your desired outcome as far as career goals. So some of you are going through these experiences because you are healers in the making. And I love this saying. It's almost like a baby is being born and it's being nurtured, and eventually that baby is going to choose to become something or someone in order to help humanity. So for many of you, don't be surprised if you have this internal calling and this need to really want to help other people on a deep level. And this requires you to have a certain level of understanding that is coming from your prior commitments and prior situations. And light of awareness is another message that you have. And what I get here is that through going to this experience, you will discover things about you that you didn't previously know. This will give you new awareness, which will shift your perspective, which will shift your thinking, and therefore your energy going forward. In order to help another achieve the same thing, you need to have the understanding and presumably the experience of going through it, how to do that. Otherwise, you cannot be a very effective healer. So that's going to mean something for a lot of you. It's also a message where you are here bringing awareness. You are the light that eventually brings awareness to others. But if you do not have awareness about your awareness, it's going to be very difficult for you to express that to others. So you guys understand what this means. It's coming in a kind of interesting language here, but that is what's being said to me. The word test is being shown. If it feels like you have been through a series of tests, you in fact have been, not because you need to learn this because you are needing to be punished, but because you need to understand something about yourself on a very profound level in order to help you choose differently going forward. And this is a very broad message, but it will apply practically to every single human in any situation of one's life. So it covers basically everyone. It is important that you know what you think about, because what you think about is actually you preparing your future outcome. Typical message or general message for law of attraction. It also, by becoming aware of your awareness or getting new awareness, it allows you to attract people and individuals who will also have similar awareness to you, which means similar interests, similar likes and dislikes, similar ideas about love, about life in general. And since you are more likely than not leaving things that no longer serve you, that's because you're no longer in alignment with those things or those people. While you go through this process of forming as the shell, your awareness becomes greater, and therefore you attract people with like awareness. So if your awareness about you becomes one of wholeness and abundance, all of a sudden you're going to open yourself up to jobs potentially that will offer you an experience that is based on your new awareness. Again, like attracts like. I don't know why I'm being say this so much for you, but I guess it's because you're going through a lot of changes in this last few months. Now, food for thought. You have the card called message called happy. If you are ever stuck in a situation and you don't know what to do, ask yourself this one seemingly simple question. Does this situation, fundamentally speaking, make me happy? If the answer is no, then the choice becomes very easy. If the answer is yes, but, then the choice becomes very easy. If the answer is yes, fundamentally makes me feel very happy, but there are moments that could use improvement, work on the improvement because the happiness is already there. When the answer is no, there is no point in proving to yourself why that's not the case, because you can't lie to yourself. So if you're stuck with a choice, ask yourself that fundamental question. And it's an easy question to ask, but it feels a bit more difficult to receive the answer to. Why? Because the moment you receive the answer to, all of a sudden you might be standing before of a choice that's uncomfortable to make. But that's necessary for you to know in order to be to feel on track, to feel happy. A more lighter message is make sure you commit to your happiness. Make sure you commit to your own happiness. And if your lighter message is choose to be happy by doing things that make you feel good about you. If it gives you pleasure, if it makes you feel good about you, to volunteer to give to others, do that. For greatest receiving comes from giving. If you feel somehow inclined to want to go karaoke singing because that makes you feel fundamentally happy, do that. Anything that you can do to raise your vibration that comes in the form of happiness or joy is something that you must commit yourself to in order to experience majority of that feeling going forward. Crossroads is being shown to me again. So yes, again, it implies that many of you are at crossroads. Make sure you surround yourself with like-minded people. Rejection sucks. I don't know why I'm saying this, but rejection sucks. And some of you have felt many forms of rejections in your past. It is important to stay open to the universe giving you, even though you have experienced rejection in the past. It is difficult, but if you allow yourself to think back and scan those experiences and look at it from the perspective of how have these experiences shaped me as an individual that I am today, that I love about me, perhaps because you're needing to be a counselor, wanted to be a counselor, and you needed to experience that will help you shift the perception of the situation, and therefore you'll be able to let that emotional attachment to it go. And it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people. However, do not look for approval, for that is probably the biggest obstacle that we do, the biggest obstacle that we have to overcome. And it's one of the hardest ones now that I think about it, because at the end of the day, we always try to prove ourselves, whether it's to ourselves, whether it's to somebody else, whether it's to society, whatever. But that is also, it's a funny thing, because oftentimes it actually prevents us from being the best that we can be, because we think of ourselves as too little. Okay, I'm gonna move on because I feel like I'm starting to rant. I hope this was helpful. I certainly wish you best of luck in August. Sounds like there's a lot of exciting things happening to many of you, some of you career-wise. Make sure you listen to the other signs. They may offer you more information or more complete information. And of course, this is a general reading, so listen to it at the end of the months, as it will probably more likely than not make more sense to you then. Also for private sessions, how the energies are affecting you, that information is down below. Thank you so much once again, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.